My family forgot my birthday for 25 years, so I spent $10,000 on the most epic party without inviting them. And my mother showed up at my wedding to destroy everything. I'm 25 years old. I work as a software developer, and I need to tell this story because my entire life I was invisible to my own family. And what happened a few months ago finally freed me from that emotional prison I lived in for decades. I guess I should start at the beginning, though the truth is there's no specific moment where it all started. It was more like a constant accumulation of small slights that eventually became a giant snowball that crushed me for years. I have two siblings, or, well, I'm the middle child. Gregory is 3 years older than me, and Natasha is 4 years younger. For as long as I can remember, Gregory was always the golden child, you know, the perfect son who could do anything, and my parents acted like he'd cured cancer. Natasha was the baby of the family, the little princess, everyone adored and pampered like she was made of glass. And I was there, in the middle, like a piece of furniture nobody noticed unless it was in the way. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but imagine growing up in a house where your achievements go unnoticed, but your mistakes are magnified to the point of public humiliation. The first really painful memory I have was when I turned 8. A few weeks earlier, Gregory had his 11th birthday, and my parents threw him a massive party, like with bounce houses, a magician, 3-tier cake, all his school friends, cousins, neighbors, basically half the town was there. I remember being at that party thinking, wow, when my birthday comes, it's going to be just as amazing. But when my birthday came, they literally forgot. I'm not exaggerating. It's not that they did something small. They simply forgot completely. I woke up that morning expecting them to tell me happy birthday, that there would be at least a little cake or something, but nothing. My mom was busy making breakfast for Gregory because he had an important game that day. My dad was reading the newspaper, and Natasha was too young to understand. I spent the whole day waiting for someone to remember, and when night came and I went to bed without anyone mentioning anything, I cried into my pillow until I fell asleep. The next morning, my mom remembered. She said something like, "Oh no, your birthday was yesterday. Sorry, honey. I was just so busy with your brother's things. You know how it is." She bought me a cupcake from the store and gave it to me like that fixed everything. I was 8 years old and I was already learning that my existence was an afterthought to them. But I thought, well, maybe it was just a mistake. Next year will be different. Spoiler alert, it was never different. The pattern continued year after year. Gregory had a birthday, and it was a national event. Natasha had a birthday, and it was a celebration worthy of royalty. I had a birthday, and they'd be lucky to remember to buy me something generic the day before. When Gregory turned 15, my parents bought him a new laptop, threw him a surprise party at a fancy restaurant, invited like 50 people. When I turned 15, they gave me $50 and told me to buy something I wanted. Natasha turned 11, and they threw her a princess-themed party with professional decorations, special dress, the whole show. I turned 18, legal age, and my mom made spaghetti for dinner because it was my favorite food. Period. That was the entire celebration. The worst part is, this wasn't just about birthdays. It was everything. Gregory got good grades and my parents bragged about him to everyone, bought honor student bumper stickers for the car, organized celebration dinners. I got the same grades or better and barely received a well done. Natasha did literally anything, like draw a tree in preschool, and my parents acted like she was Picasso, hung her drawings all over the house, showed them to visitors. I could win programming competitions in high school, and my parents wouldn't even attend the award ceremonies because they conflicted with Gregory's football games or Natasha's dance recitals. I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me, that I wasn't good enough, that I had to try harder to earn their attention and affection. I tried everything, seriously. I became the best student in my class, participated in extracurricular activities, helped around the house without being asked. I was the most responsible and obedient son you could imagine. Nothing worked. My parents always found a way to minimize my achievements or simply ignore them. Meanwhile, Gregory could fail a test and my parents would console him, saying everyone has bad days. Natasha could act like an insufferable brat, and my parents defended her, saying she was just a child expressing her emotions. When I turned 21, an important milestone, I thought that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Gregory had a huge party when he turned 21, with an open bar, DJ, in an event hall, all the extended family and his friends. I expected something. Not at the same level, maybe, but something. On my birthday, my parents took me to dinner at an Applebee's. Just the four of us. Because Natasha had a sleepover that night that was obviously more important. We split the check, because my dad said that now that I was an adult, I should start paying my share. I went home that night and cried like I hadn't in years. But this time it wasn't just sadness, it was anger. A lot of accumulated anger. I started to distance myself emotionally after that. I graduated from college, got a good job as a software developer, moved into my own apartment. I still went to family gatherings because I thought that's what I should do. But it got harder and harder. Seeing how my parents kept treating Gregory and Natasha like they were the best thing in the world, while I remained invisible, consumed me inside. My birthdays kept being forgotten or celebrated with the minimum possible effort. I turned 23, and my mom sent me a text at 11 at night saying happy birthday, not even a call. I turned 24, and they gave me a Target gift card for $25. She came into my life when I was about 24 and a half. We worked at the same company, though in different departments. We started dating, and she was the first person in my life who really saw me, you know? The first who listened when I talked, who celebrated my achievements without minimizing them, who made me feel like I mattered. I told her about my family eventually, about what it had been like growing up invisible, and she was horrified. She couldn't believe my own parents had treated me like that my whole life. She told me something that completely changed my perspective. She said, "Tyler, you don't have to keep accepting this. You decide how much your presence is worth in their lives." That made me think. I was about to turn 25, a quarter century of life, and I had spent all those years begging for crumbs of attention and affection from people who clearly didn't value my existence. Something in me broke, or rather, something fixed itself. I decided that my 25th birthday was going to be different, not because they were going to change, but because I was going to claim what I deserved. I started planning my birthday party months in advance. It wasn't going to be a normal party. It was going to be epic, the celebration I never had, multiplied by 25. I rented an event hall, hired high-end catering, a professional DJ, elegant decorations, open bar, photographer, the complete package. I spent like $10,000 on that party, basically all my savings. But I didn't care. I also booked a luxury cruise for the following week because I decided I was going to give myself the vacation I always dreamed of. Melissa supported me in everything, even helped me with the organization and encouraged me when I doubted if I was going overboard. I invited all my friends, co-workers, acquaintances, cousins, uncles, basically every person in my life except my parents and siblings. Well, technically I did invite them, but in a very specific way. I sent them the invitation by mail, super formal, with all the event information, but I didn't tell them anything else. I didn't ask them to RSVP. Didn't talk to them about the party. Literally just let the invitation arrive, and that was it. My mom called me like 2 weeks before the event. She said, "Tyler, we received your invitation. This is very elaborate. Don't you think it's a bit much for a birthday?" I told her, "No, Mom. Gregory had parties like this his whole life. Natasha too. I'm just doing what you never did for me." She was quiet for a moment and then said something about me being dramatic, that they had always loved me the same as my siblings, that I was exaggerating. I said, "It's okay, Mom. See you at the party if you decide to go," and I hung up. The night of the party arrived, and the hall looked incredible. There were like 150 people there. The music was awesome, the food delicious, everyone was having a good time. My parents and siblings didn't show up, which honestly didn't surprise me. But my uncles, aunts, cousins did come, and everyone commented on how incredible everything was. Halfway through the party, I had planned something special. I asked the DJ to turn down the music, and we projected a slideshow on a giant screen. It was a compilation of photos from all my childhood and adolescent birthdays. Photos of Gregory's massive parties, of Natasha's elaborate celebrations, and then photos of me on my birthdays. In each one I was alone, or with a small cupcake, or directly with nothing. The contrast was brutal. I took the microphone and said, "I want to thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate with me something my family never considered worthy of celebrating, my existence. These photos show 25 years of being invisible, of being the forgotten son, the brother, who didn't matter. But today that ends. Today I celebrate myself, and I give myself something I always deserved, being the priority in my own life. I also want to share with you that next week I'm going on a luxury cruise through the Caribbean, something I always dreamed of doing, and I'm going to enjoy it with people who really care about me." The hall fell silent for a few seconds, and then everyone applauded. Several of my relatives came up to me afterwards crying, telling me they had no idea it had been like that they regretted not noticing before. My uncles and aunts hugged me. Some admitted they had noticed the favoritism, but didn't know what to say. My friend Scott, who's known me since college, gave a spontaneous speech about how amazing I am and how I deserve all the good things in the world. It was cathartic, liberating, like I could finally breathe after being underwater for 25 years. The next day, the messages started. My mom wrote me a text testament saying we had been very cruel to show those photos, that I had embarrassed the family, that I was ungrateful after everything they had done for me. Gregory sent me a message saying it had been super immature of me to make that drama, that our parents did the best they could. Natasha called me crying, saying I had made her look bad in front of everyone, that it wasn't her fault our parents spoiled her. My dad, who typically avoided any confrontation, sent me a short message saying I should apologize to my mother. I didn't respond to any of those messages. Instead, I packed my bags and went on my cruise. Melissa came with me along with Scott and other close friends. It was the best 7 days of my life. We swam with dolphins, ate at incredible restaurants, danced until dawn, relaxed at spas, explored paradise islands. Every moment was a celebration of my freedom, of my decision to no longer accept the crumbs my family offered me. While I was on that cruise, I made an important decision. When I returned, I deleted the family group chat, blocked my parents and siblings from all my social media, and sent them one last message saying I needed indefinite space and not to try to contact me. Melissa completely supported me, told me she was proud of me for finally setting healthy boundaries. About 6 months of peace passed. I focused on my work, on my relationship with Melissa, on building a life that really made me happy. I hung out with my friends, traveled, invested in my hobbies, basically did everything I always wanted to do without the emotional burden of a family that didn't value me. It was liberating to wake up every day without that constant anxiety of not being enough, without that pain of being invisible. Then I proposed to Melissa. It was super romantic. I took her to a beautiful vineyard. We stayed in a cabin, and one afternoon while we were watching the sunset, I asked her to marry me. She said yes, obviously, and we started planning our wedding. We decided to do something intimate, like 50 guests maximum, only the people we really loved and who supported us. We didn't invite my parents or my siblings. Melissa asked me several times if I was sure, and each time I told her yes, that this was my wedding, and I wanted to be surrounded only by genuine love. The wedding was perfect. We got married in a beautiful garden, everything decorated with white flowers and hanging lights, super elegant but cozy. My friends were there, Melissa's parents, who treated me better than my own parents, some cousins and uncles who had been at my 25th party. The ceremony was emotional. The vows we wrote made us both cry. The reception was fun and full of laughter. I was in the middle of my first dance with Melissa when I saw my mom. She appeared out of nowhere. Literally nobody knew how she found out where the wedding was or how she got in. She stood in the middle of the hall with her arms crossed, looking offended and dramatic. The DJ turned down the music, because everyone noticed her presence. I approached her and asked her what she was doing there. She raised her voice so everyone could hear and said, "I came to see how my son gets married without even inviting his own mother. I came to see how far your selfishness goes, Tyler." I felt my blood boil. I told her calmly, "Mom, you need to leave now." She started making a scene, saying, how could I possibly be treating her like this after everything she had sacrificed for me? That she was a horrible mother who raised an ungrateful son, that I would regret this. Melissa came over and told her firmly, "This is our wedding and you're not welcome here. Please leave." My mom looked at me with so much venom and said, You're going to regret doing this to me. Someday you're going to need your family and we won't be there for you. You're a failure as a son. Two of my friends had to escort her out because she refused to leave on her own. The wedding continued after that, but the moment had been ruined. Everyone was trying to cheer me up, telling me not to let that overshadow my special day. And although I tried, I couldn't help feeling angry and sad at the same time. Melissa hugged me and said, "This proves you made the right decision. She doesn't respect your boundaries even on the most important day of your life." The next day, my dad called me. I answered because part of me still had hope that he would be different, that he would understand. But he basically scolded me for 30 minutes about how I had humiliated my mother, how it was my duty as a son to include my family in important moments, how I was being selfish and immature. I asked him, "Dad, have you ever wondered why I didn't invite you? Have you ever stopped to think about how you treated me my entire life?" He said I was exaggerating, that all parents make mistakes, that I was using the past as an excuse to be cruel now. I told him there was no point talking to him if he couldn't see the problem, and I hung up. But something in me needed to close this cycle completely. I needed a direct answer. Like a week later, I went to my parents' house, that house where I grew up feeling invisible. I knocked on the door and my mom opened. She looked surprised to see me. I said, "I need you to tell me the truth. Why? Why did you always treat me like I didn't matter? What did I do to deserve being the forgotten son for 25 years? She sighed, as if I was bothering her with something trivial, and said, "Tyler, you've always been so dramatic. We treated you the same as your siblings." I showed her the photos from my birthday party on my phone, the same ones from the slideshow. I said, "This is not treating me the same. This is systematically forgetting me." She looked at them briefly and said, something I'll never forget. She said, "Gregory and Natasha were special. They had talents and personalities that shined. You were more ordinary. You didn't need as much attention. Plus, they tried harder, and that's why they deserved more recognition." I stood there processing what I had just heard. My own mother had just admitted that she had consciously treated me as less because she didn't think I was special enough. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't that they were busy. It was an active decision to prioritize them over me because, in her mind, I wasn't worth the same. I asked her, "So basically you're admitting that you pushed me aside my whole life because you decided I wasn't as good as them?" She shrugged and said, "You're not understanding, Tyler. We simply treated each child according to what they needed, and you didn't need the same as them." That was it. That was the moment I closed that door forever. I said, "Thank you for finally being honest. Now I can move forward knowing I wasn't crazy, that you really treated me like that and it was intentional. Goodbye, Mom." She tried to say something else, but I turned around and left. I drove back to my house crying, not exactly from sadness, but from rage and also relief in a way. Relief from finally having confirmation that it hadn't been my fault, that I wasn't the problem, that they had simply decided I wasn't worth their love and effort. I cut all contact after that. I blocked their numbers, changed my social media to private, asked my cousins and uncles not to share information about me with them. Gregory tried to contact me a couple times through mutual friends, but I never responded. Natasha sent me a letter in the mail saying she missed the brother she used to know, but I knew that brother never really existed to her. It was just a romantic idea of the perfect family we never had. Now I'm 26. I've been married to Melissa for almost a year, and we're incredibly happy. We bought a small but cozy house, adopted a dog. We have a quiet life full of love. My in-laws treat me like a real son. They remember my birthday, come to dinner every 2 weeks, ask me how I'm really doing. I have friends who are my chosen family, people who celebrate my achievements and are there when things get tough. I don't miss my parents or siblings. Honestly, I miss the idea of having a family that loved me, but that family never really existed. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, if I was too harsh, if I should have tried harder. But then I remember my mom's words, admitting that she consciously decided I didn't deserve the same love and effort as my siblings, and I know I made the right decision. You can't force people to value you. You can't beg for love and respect from people who decided you're not worthy of receiving it. Last month was my 26th birthday. Melissa organized a surprise dinner with our closest friends at our house. Nothing elaborate, just pizza, wine, laughter, and a cake she baked herself. They sang happy birthday to me, gave me gifts chosen specifically for me, hugged me, and told me how much I mean to them. As I blew out the candles, I realized that this was what I had always wanted, not expensive parties or elaborate gifts, but people who genuinely were glad I existed. And finally, after 26 years, I have it.